Number 10. Factorize p squared q squared minus 6pqr plus 9r squared. And this is WASSCE private exam past question 2018 objective question 12. So option A is pq minus 3r all squared. Option B is pq minus 3r multiplied by pq plus 3r. Option C is pq plus 3r all squared. And option D, pr plus 3q multiplied by pr minus 3q. So before we solve this, take note of the equation critically. You would observe that this is a quadratic expression, okay, which simply means that instead of being a quadratic expression in one variable, that is simply x or y or p, in this case we are going to assume that it is a quadratic expression in terms of pq. Okay, so what it simply means is that the p squared q squared as shown on the screen can be rewritten as pq all squared, and the rest of the expression can now follow. So now we are going to use a factorization method to actually factorize this. Now the coefficient of pq is simply 1, and in this case the constant is 9r squared. We are going to assume that r is also a constant. In this case, let's just ignore the r squared and just use the numbers to make our calculations easier, so that when we finish we can then include our variables as well. If we multiply the coefficient of pq by the constant 9r squared, in this case we are just using 9, we are going to have 9, and remember we are going to find two factors of 9 which when multiplied gives us 9 back, and which when added gives us -6, which is part of the middle term. So in this case you are aware that 9 is also written as 1 times 9. We can also see that 9 is also the same as -1 times -9. Now so far, if you look at these two factors, when you add them up you wouldn't get -6. Okay, the first one, 1 plus 9 is 10, and the second one, -1 plus -9 is simply -10. We proceed further. Those are not the only numbers that will result to the number 9 as shown on the screen, so we proceed further. Now 3 times 3 also gives us +9, and again -3 times -3 also gives us +9. Which of them adds up to give us the -6 that we are questioning for? It's obvious. It is a -3 and the -3 being multiplied to give us the 9 as shown on the screen. So we are going to rewrite it using our new factors. Instead of saying -6 pqr for our middle term, we'll now split it up into -pqr minus 3 pqr. Then the rest of the items are then also followed. For the first two expressions we can factor out pq, and in the second we can factor out -3r as shown on the screen. And now when we factor out pq minus 3r, we now have the final expression as shown on the screen. Now do you realize that the items in both brackets are the same, or in other words it is one quantity multiplied by itself? And to simplify it further, it will be better to write one of them and then introduce the square as shown on the screen. Why? Because pq minus 3r times pq minus 3r is simply the same as pq minus 3r all squared. So it's obvious that the answer is going to be option A as shown on the screen.